No, I can't help myself. No, I can't help myself.
Good evening and welcome again to this online session, which is a little bit weird, but we will be meeting for the last time in your campus from March 9th to March 11th. I will be coming and I'll be meeting a lot of your professors as well. So if you guys are available and are free, then we should go out for I don't know, for a fiesta or for a restaurante or a bar, whichever is comfortable to you guys, okay? Alonso was supposed to make those internal discussions and find about a place, maybe a casino, maybe a restaurant or a bar, but it's up to you. It's optional. It's not mandatory. Uh, Last class, we discussed a little bit about Web3, and you guys informed me that you already had a similar session and you have a little bit of context about having wallets. You know a little bit about blockchain, Bitcoin, other protocols as well. So today we'll be discussing one specific area within this entire canvas, right? And that area is called as DAOs. But before we jump into DAOs, we will be touching about some fun NFT discussions as well. I think in the last class, we checked into one of the NFT platforms like OpenSea, and we saw that, hey, anyone can buy any of the NFTs if you have Ethereum or any of the tokens per se. But for context, I will just read some of the things that you are seeing on the screen, and I will pause to take any questions if you guys have, okay? NFTs stand for non-fungible tokens, meaning unique and non-interchangeable. So any digital asset that you are actually buying on the blockchain, these are very unique and they are not interchangeable. So one NFT cannot be changed for another NFT. They can also have one official owner at a time, and they are secured by the Ethereum blockchain. Now, Ethereum blockchain is where the majority of the NFTs are, but now there are multiple L1s and multiple other chains where they have their own NFT ecosystems as well. But for our class today and for the month ahead, we will take into reference only Ethereum and maybe Ethereum ecosystem. So no one can modify the record of ownership or copy paste a new NFT into existence. NFTs are tokens that we can use to represent ownership of unique items. I'll repeat that again. NFTs are tokens that we can use to represent ownership of unique items. Those items can be art, collectible, real estate as well. And Kevin likes mezcal, you can also have mezcals as NFTs, which means that anyone who has a particular NFT could get a mezcal bottle as an utility as well. That is a possibility. Similarly, if you have a particular physical product, any product, it could be a chair, it could be a table, it could be a pen, a paper, a laptop, a specs, a mobile phone, everything can be NFTized or tokenized as well. Okay, that's the context. NFTs replicate the properties of physical items like scarcity, uniqueness, and proof of ownership. A comparison of an NFT and the current internet below is given. NFTs are digitally unique. No two NFTs are the same. A copy of file like an MP3 or JPEG is the same as the original. So what the basic difference between an NFT and a typical JPEG file or a photograph on your computer is that it is not very unique. And why an NFT is unique? Because it is minted on a blockchain. Now, before I take any questions, one quick fun fact is, do any of you guys on the call hold any NFT? Have you ever bought an NFT?
No, but
Okay.
we already create one.
Okay. And you created that during your earlier class?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So if you have created an NFT, it means that you would have seen the smart contract as well. You would have seen that it has been deployed on a particular chain, and you would have owned that NFT via your wallet, right? It could be an Ethereum wallet or a Solana wallet or a Phantom wallet. So I think you have a little bit of context and background. Excellent. Now, we discussed about a bunch of NFT use cases as well, right? I will read that again. It might be boring for some of the guys who already know about it. But as we proceed further in our team activities, we may realize that these might come handy to us, okay? NFTs can represent both digital assets and non-digital assets as well. Non-digital assets are legal documents. Your signature, like Guillermo's signature, can be an NFT as well. Your invoice, your deeds, which is like rental agreement, car agreement, university degrees are now given as NFTs, right? Igade Business School has NFTs that are given as degrees, which are signed by your higher authorities as well. So those are the use case of NFTs. Now, digital content. NFTs enable content creators to own their work. So tomorrow, if let's say Antonio wants to create a content around his future business idea, he could create in a decentralized platform, not like a centralized platform like Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, but on a decentralized platform like Favor or Lens Protocol or Farcaster. These are all very new platforms. Not a lot of people understand it, especially if you are a millennial. You will have more difficulties in understanding it because our neural wiring is such that we have a lot of baggages to unlearn to proceed further with decentralized social media. Usually a Gen Z in the age group of 19 years to 24 years is a good target segment who can learn these things very quickly. So if you are in your 30s, don't worry. You will take more time to understand these things because you need to unlearn a lot of things to understand what decentralized social media is, because you are more used to Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So when creators sell their content, yeah, any questions?
Yes. What are kind of like the benefits that you see of these new platforms compared to maybe the more traditional ones?
Sure. I will take that question as we proceed further in the class as well. Okay. It's covered in one of the slide pack directly, so you can see that, Antonio. If the new owner then sells the NFT, the original creator can even automatically receive royalties baked into and ensured by the metadata. Okay. These are very geeky terms, but in nutshell, what it talks about is that if you have ever owned an NFT, you will get some returns or some percentage of that particular Ethereum sale if you are the creator of that particular NFT. And that NFT could be a content that you have created, which is like a poem. It could be a photograph or a picture, or it could be anything. Okay. So the other NFT use cases are gaming, domains. So your wallet addresses, which are like hexadecimal and numerical numbers, can be domain addresses as well through ENS. What those are, we will discuss again at a later point in time. Just focus on this part, which is like digital content, and focus on these two last elements, which is physical items and fractional ownership. Now, physical items, NFTs could eventually act as deeds to physical items such as your house or car. One day, you could buy a car or home using Ethereum and receive the deed as an NFT in return. Like today in 2023, when you will graduate out of Igade Business School, you will get your physical degree, or certificate, but in your convocation or in your graduation, you will also get an Ethereum-based degree. Now, your Ethereum-based degree is actually it's more solid and more trustworthy than your physical degree as well, because your physical degree can be replicable. Someone can photocopy it with a good, Xerox machine, or, it could be copied as well. But NFT of a particular degree of yours cannot be copied because it is minted on chain. It's there on Ethereum or Polygon. Yeah. So this physical items could have the utility of these NFTs as well. Fractional ownership, NFT creators can also create shares for their NFT, allowing people to own a part of an NFT without having to buy the whole thing. Which means tomorrow, let's say there is a very costly mezcal from Oaxaca, which may cost, let's say, $500 to $1,000. And let's say 5 of you people do not want, you don't want to buy it individually, but you want to have a share of that particular mezcal, right? So there could be an NFT that will give access to that particular bottle of mezcal just because the physical utility is entwined into that NFT. And 5 people can share and buy that together and share it among themselves as well. That was just an example. But tomorrow, if you want to build a particular product, it could be a product like anything, right? It could be a computer, or it could be mobile phone as well. And you can use fractional ownership to own those physical devices as well. So just focus, just have a little bit of background around digital content, around physical items, and fractional ownership as we proceed further. A few of the notable NFT projects are CryptoKitties, Bored Ape. Everyone has heard of Bored Ape. The company that has actually produced or manufactured or sold these NFTs is called as Yuga Labs. And that particular Yuga Labs actual investment deck is there in your Telegram channel, which was shared last week. So if you haven't seen it yet, we will touch that investment deck very lightly to understand what the project was around. Okay, that's an actual investment slide deck. So similarly, other NFT projects are Loot, NBA Top Shot, Beeple, etc. Now, Beeple is very famous because it was sold for more than $60 million and was bought by one of the Indian origin entrepreneur from Singapore. And that really rocked the blockchain or Web3 world, because that was the costliest NFT that was sold till date, more than $60 million US dollars. A few NFT marketplaces are Zora, Foundation, OpenSea. Now, OpenSea is something that I think we just touched upon last class. We will also see it today. A little bit of basic difference between NFTs, which you see onto the right, which is like CryptoPunk 1, CryptoPunk 2997, CryptoPunk 6419, and Ethereum is 1 Ethereum equal to 1 Ethereum equal to 1 Ethereum. Same for your pesos. 10 pesos is equal to 10 pesos equal to 10 pesos. But an NFT, let's say of hashtag 1, hashtag 2997, hashtag 6419 are very different. And the differences are as shown below. Fungible and non-fungible. Non-fungible are very unique. They are digitally scarce as opposed to fungible tokens. Your money in your wallet is fungible. Your NFT in your digital wallet is non-fungible. These are non-interchangeable. This token is unlike any other token in existence. You can send only or whole tokens. These are useful for collectibles, gaming, music, etc. ERC 721 token standards, example, Bored Apes, etc. Okay. Benefits of NFTs are scarcity, probable rarity and uniqueness, authenticity. anyone who holds a particular NFT is the legit owner, and that is possible because you can see the ownership on chain. There is a history of ownership as well. You track the ownership of an item and its provenance. Is there any question? No? Okay. Then we have history of ownership as well, which means that all these things are being recorded on chain. There is very transparency as well. Like you guys have my wallet address, so you can actually look into my wallet and see what all NFTs I own. And the last one, which is interesting, is that you have revenue and royalty, which means that automated sales and royalties on secondary sales. So for example, if you are a creator of an NFT, and every other time that NFT is traded in the open market, you will always get some money out of it as well. Now that is the concepts of NFT. Just a quote that I will read on Twitter. I know a lot of you guys haven't been using Twitter, but in the next 3 to 5 years, if you are in the professional environment, there will be a lot of opportunities that will be coming to you on Twitter. So my recommendation is that preferably have an active account on Twitter and try to follow some good folks like Naval Ravikant as well, who is the founder of Angel List. Okay. The Naval said that NFTs tokenize all the things that are available in the market. We are going from a world where every protocol has a token to where every decentralized application has a token, to where every valuable digital representation of an object or person has a token. It's a very dystopian outlook, but in the future, the predictions are that many things in the real life can be tokenized. He also told that public blockchains will be the title registries for everything of value, right? So tomorrow, I was just reading about Mexican, democratic landscape as well. So some voting that happened in the last few days. Let's say there is an agency that is actually taking care of all the voting, that democratic voting that happens in your country. Those voting systems can be also NFTs eventually, which means that every legit person with a wallet address can also make those voting on chain, right? That is a possibility in the very extent, not in the near future, but in the long time as well. Ultimately, NFTs will authenticate the world. Now, a little bit of context for DAOs. As you see, from around 1960s to 1970s, 80s, when the current internet was being shaped in the US, the internet was designed to be decentralized, right? Which meant that there were nodes in the West Coast, then there were nodes in the East Coast, then eventually these nodes interacted with themselves. Then internet evolved, and then we had like sea cables. Then the nodes got to international locations as well. Now the current shape of internet is it was supposed to be very decentralized. The internet was designed to be decentralized so that one failure couldn't bring down the network. Because imagine if the internet was held by only 2 entities, if these data farms were set on fire, no one in the world could have accessed internet, right? So the internets were designed for decentralization. Now, what happened is eventually in late 90s and early 2000s, when internet evolved from Web 1.0 to Web 2.0, these companies that you see like Amazon, Twitter, Google, Facebook, which is Meta right now, and Baidu is in China, they started having walled gardens. Like, they said that you need to have a user email address access protected by a password, and you will be available. You can get that access via our gateway itself. So they started creating walled gardens, right? Now, this is the Web 2.0 era. This went on up until 2008, 9, and maybe 2014 onwards as well, when a lot of our generation folks were heavily using all these Web 2 technologies. Now, interestingly, the model of Web 2 is These are the companies you see: Amazon, Twitter, Google. The user data that you see, like any data that Alonso is using through the mobile application, is actually locked within the boundaries of these companies, which means that tomorrow, if Amazon wants, or Twitter wants, or Google wants, they can actually kick you out from their platforms or their ecosystems. So you can see here, it's locked. Your user data, which means that the data that you actually use internally for accessing anything, is actually locked with these companies. But yeah, Daniel, what's the question?
No, it's a question, but also like a flashback because I was remembering Limeware, Ares, and all this kind of stuff, and for me, crypto is somehow like these early tries to get like an open internet where users could share many files, and it was good while it was like useful, but suddenly it got like some troubles. And I don't know if you take a look in the same way to blockchain. It's like an open internet with users sharing stuff, files, NFTs, all this kind of stuff. It makes me feel like a sense of back to those days with Limeware and all these systems where the internet were everybody. The internet was everybody, and everybody were part of that big network. So, but something killed those platforms. Those they claim that it was piracy and many kind of these things. And I don't know if blockchain is taking like the same look, because nowadays sometimes blockchain and not fiat money is taking, and it seems like it's like the deep web money. So I don't know if you are in the same, you're checking the same scope as I do, but I think that it could be a risk that all these good open internet systems could collapse and get into something like Limeware with just bad reputation.
Yeah, thanks for those thoughts, Daniel. And surprisingly, even Limewire is back into the Web3 blockchain game as well after such a long time, which means that even they are exploring, is there a way they can actually co-create something in this Web3 canvas, right? Now, some of my thoughts on those is that, yes, these are very early days in Web3 as well. The interesting part of Web3 is that when Web2 was getting shaped, when Twitter, Amazon, Google was formed, it was primarily by tech bros in the Silicon Valley who actually started it. You were not taken into consideration, right? You were just a late user at a very later point in time, right? You were not an early adopter, and your choices or your voice was not taken into consideration. Surprisingly, in the blockchain or Web3 ecosystem, everyone has a voice. Now, everyone's voice is actually changing the protocol layers itself, which means that today, if anyone wants, whether it is Antonio, Alonso, Gustavo, or you, Daniel, you can actually participate in all these protocols, and you can change the direction of these protocols as well, which wasn't the case in the Web2 world, where you had to be an employee of a company like Amazon or Twitter or Google to make any changes to those products. The fundamental difference right now is that you are having a voice that you can actually, or participate in this new Web3 economy. In Web2 economy, it was more a push strategy pushed by all these big behemoths. But in Web3, it is more participative, is what I think. But again, Web3 is also evolving. These are very early days. It feels everything decentralized. Is there a possibility that in the next 10 to 15 years, things could be centralized at certain points? The answer is yes, there is a possibility. But as we speak, Web3 ecosystem is going through very early stage changes, and is a very interesting space to be in, especially if you are a forward-thinking professional. because every company in the next 5 years will have some Web3 touch point, no matter which company you are working for. And some elements will be, maybe disrupted by this technology as well, right? So we'll come to the Web3 model from here. Over here, as you see, the Web2 model, the user data was always captured by these companies like Amazon, Twitter, Google, etc. But in this new business model, what is happening is that the user data is with the user, right? All the companies that we are currently thinking about, like Favor, which we just touched upon last class, or there are new apps that are getting built like Twitter, like Instagram in the Web3 world, which are called as maybe Lens Protocol, maybe Forecaster, maybe Zion, etc. These are just applications, right? They do not have access to your data. The data remains with you. So now you are the owner of the data, right? So this is a very fundamental difference between a Web2 model and a Web3 content model. In Web 3.0, users own the data and choose how it is shared. For example, if you do not want to be shared, then you just restrict the share, and this particular application like Favor will not have access to your data. Okay. Now, many of my, let's say many folks have this question, how to use these applications. There is a learning phase to these applications as well. It is not very intuitive because Web3 is in very early days. So imagine using Twitter in 2007, right? I started using Twitter in 2009, and then I started heavily using Twitter from 2016. I started using Facebook in 2006 or 7 when the website was called as thefacebook.com. And then obviously, we saw how Facebook has evolved over the last 15 years, right? So similarly, these are very early days of the Web3 ecosystem. So all the products that we are seeing, like Favor, Forecaster, Lens, these will evolve. So if you are getting anxious or restless, I would urge you to be patient in the early days and try to enjoy the process. Imagine that you are trying to learn Twitter in 2007 or 8. This is 2023, and a lot of you may not have Twitter accounts, but Twitter has been there in the ecosystem for the last 15 years. So imagine you are an early adopter of these tools and try to explore those tools, right? Usually when you are an early adopter, you need to think like an innovator or a person who is happy to experiment things. So if you are a very structured person in your head because of 10 years or 15 years of work experiential baggage, then you will have to do a little bit of unlearning as well. You will have to become a kid to experiment with these tools. The more older you are in your head, the more difficulty you will face in using these tools as well. Okay. So that's why all these Gen Zs who are 19, 20, fresh out of college, they are very comfortable using these applications because they don't have any work baggage or any experiential baggages, right? It's very intuitive to them. Funnily, experiment was done where 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds are much more comfortable using new age Web3 technology than 40-year-olds. And the problem is 40-year-olds are still living in their 1970s and 1980s or 1990s, and their references and their benchmark is too old school, right? For a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old today, they assume that internet is available. They assume that every device has Wi-Fi, right? They assume that the video quality is of high quality. So the assumptions of a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old is nicer, is quicker, and that is actually pushing the innovation fabric forward as well. A new quote by Naval Ravikant again, he says, a firm is a company. You guys are all working in multiple companies. Either it is your own company or a company that has hired you. A firm is just a nexus of contracts. He says that payroll contracts with employees, profit contracts with shareholders, debt contracts with lenders, delivery contracts with customers, tax contracts with the state. That's what a company is. So blockchain-based smart contracts will eventually reinvent the firm. I will repeat that again for you. Blockchain-based smart contracts, which means like code or smart contracts, will eventually how your companies are currently being shaped, right? Which means today you think that your companies are hierarchical. There is a CEO, there is a CXO, whom that either you are a CXO or a CEO, or you would be reporting to a CXO eventually. But eventually, the construct of your current companies will change in the next 5 to 10 years. So these are very futuristic, forward-looking statements as well. Now that's where DAOs comes into play, which stands for decentralized autonomous organizations. Now, before we jump into the definitions, discussions of DAOs, you jump into the the reading material on the internet. I will try to explain like you are a 10-year-old kid. Okay, your home where your dad is there, your mom is there, your siblings are there, and you are trying to go for carne asada on a Saturday or a Sunday. That entire process is like a DAO. Imagine everyone has a role to play. Excuse me. Everyone has a role to play for the carne asada. Your parents, your father or mother possibly will be buying the meat. Your siblings will possibly be setting up the grill. And you will be coordinating among yourself in a very chaotic manner. It is not like a structured company process, right? It's not like your father directs that or your mother directs that today at 4 o'clock, we all will meet in the living room. And from there, we will go to the, outside. We will take the charcoal. We will buy the charcoal from OXO. These kind of directions are not given by anyone. So subconsciously, all the family members know what the goal is. Everyone is somehow invested in that goal as well, and they play their roles. And this particular process is a very crude example of a DAO. In that particular carne asada event, there is no boss per se. Like if someone tries to become a boss, it is a very difficult way to, you will not enjoy the process as well. Now, decentralized autonomous organizations. Can someone read what the definition is?
Decentralized autonomous organizations are communities, organizations organized around a shared set of rules enforced on the blockchain through a smart contract. Once the contract is live on the network, no one can change the rules except by a vote. The ethos behind DAOs is to enable collective decision-making, guardrailing against hierarchical organization structures. A popular analogy is that DAOs are modern-day tech-enabled coups.
Excellent. Thanks, Ali. So, for example, now we have 3 teams, right? The team 1 is Montserrat, Marcos, Max, and Gustavo. Team 2 is Alonso, Rodrigo, Daniel, and Raul. Team 3 is Antonio, Guillermo, Ale, Rosario, and Kevin, right? Imagine these teams are like guilds, and every team, you just know your teammate. The first 2 guys liked each other, so they formed the teams. Then there was a pseudo decision making that happened in the class where you thought that, hey, let's pick each other. So you decided your team in a very chaotic manner, right? But now your teams are structured and formed, right? Eventually, when we move forward in these DAO classes, you'll realize these teams are called as guilds, right? Which means that every team that has been formed over a period of 2 months in, let's say, 5-6 classes, it's very, it's a way where every team member would like some element or some skill set from the other team member. And possibly there is a chance that you guys can work coherently as well, right? DAO members are not only participants in, but also owners of the DAO. Members are given tokens which grant them equity ownership in the DAO, as well as voting power in on-chain governance decisions. These are very complex terms. I'll touch upon it later. Currently in the tech canvas, we have multiple DAOs. We have protocol DAOs, we have grant DAOs, we have social DAOs, and we have investment DAOs. Now, what happens in a DAO is that a bunch of people, or let's say community members, they come together, they organize themselves autonomously, which means that without any clear directions, etc. And then they try to engage with these community members, and they try to form something like a pseudo organization, which means that team one could be an organization consisting of Montserrat, Marcos, Max, and Gustavo. There's a possibility it could be an organization. In that organization, currently there are no designations. There is no CXO. There is no hierarchy per se. You are just friends, you like each other, and you thought, let's form teams. 50 to 60% of the DAOs that I have worked in for the last 2 years have started like this. There was just a bunch of people in a Telegram group only, or in a WhatsApp group, who started having conversations among themselves because they had a same cultural theme, or there were certain cultural elements that they were getting connected to, and the business idea and the money and the token came way later, after maybe 6 months, right? But the initial formation of teams was based on community bonding and likability among team members. Now, because the teams have been formed in such a manner amongst you, there's a possibility that you may like your team member as well. Now, tomorrow, let's say if you do not like one of your team member, you can also come to me and you can say that, Shashwat, is there a possibility that I can change my team? And I will say, absolutely, go for it. Because I want you to learn through the process that your teams, let's say, Daniel comes to me and says that, I'm a good fit in team 2, but as we progress further in the game, team 3's incentivization techniques or mechanisms are better, and I would like to move to team 3. Now, the question is, can he move from team 2 to team 3? The answer is yes. That's how DAOs operate in real life. There is no clear boundaries, and there are no clear, set of hierarchy as well, for which you will have to take permission every other time. So going forward in the coming days, as we read about DAOs together and we learn certain concepts together, I will be more of a facilitator to you, a friend to you, and not more of a hierarchical decision maker where you should be asking for any decisions that you need to take, right? DAOs are usually very fluid, which means that if you want to move from one guild to another guild and you absolutely have a reasoning for it, you can do that. But you should have a rational reasoning behind you as well for that. DAOs are of multiple types, but I will share these documents next class. But as we move ahead in the game, just keep in mind that the teams that you've formed, you can think about any business that is of relevance to you as a group, where you can make money together. You are all MBA students, which means that you can pick any business which is a strength to your team, and eventually you can make sales and you can make money as well. And we will learn how the concept of DAOs can be plugged in effectively in your business model as well. Okay. What is a DAO? A DAO is democratic in nature. Usually a company sometimes is very autocratic. When you say a DAO is democratic, it means that everyone has a chance to influence a protocol and how it should be run. For our class simulation, we will not think about a protocol, but usually we'll think about a product or a service, right? Usually how it happens is that protocol layers are on top of a product or a service, right? So let's say today we build a bunch of products. Those products can get plugged into a protocol, right? But what you need to understand is that the functional mechanism of a DAO is very democratic, which means, let's say in team number 3, we have Antonio, Guillermo, Ale, Rosario, and Kevin. Everyone has equal voice and equal power in voicing their opinion and shaping any business or any product per se. So let's say 20% each of you have those voting rights. Now, tomorrow, if you want to create any particular solution or a business or a pricing of a business, then you can actually take democratic vote. For example, you are building a particular solution and you're saying that particular solution should be 1,000 pesos. Now, if five of you agree to that, then you can proceed further with that particular price. Let's say if 3 people deny to that, for example, Ale, Antonio, and Kevin say, no, we think that $1,000 is too much or too less, then you cannot proceed with that decision making as well. So every decision that is taken in a team internally is very democratic in nature. It cannot be very autocratic where one CEO, let's say Alonso or Montserrat, say something. They are the team leaders for reference. But if they voice any opinion and there are other people who reject their opinion, then you cannot proceed further in a DAO. So the fundamental thing that we need to learn or know is that DAO is democratic in nature. A DAO is very transparent in nature as well. Now, transparent is, and that's why for transparency, I have used Telegram as a channel. For example, in a company that you are working, let me take an example. Let's say, Marcos, can you unmute? Can you tell me that in your company, do you know every decision that your CEO takes, does he or she share everything with you as an employee?
No, everything. Some decision because yes, no everything.
Mm-hmm. So let's say we have Rosario, maybe. Hola, Rosario. In your company, do you think that you are in the finance department? Do you share your day-to-day work with your supply chain department or marketing department? No?
No, I don't display my information for nobody.
Because we are very, very focused into our own departments, and that is the job that has been given to us by a centralized authority or force, which reports into the CEO of the company. And because our payment or salaries come from that CEO, we do not, we just follow the rules. Now in a DAO, everything is transparent actually, which means tomorrow in the Telegram group, you can openly discuss about your own ideas so that your other team members also look into your thought process, and your internal team members can actually reply to each other. DAOs operate in a very transparent manner. So that's why you would have seen that I'm sharing a lot of business presentations from the Monterey batch in front of you, because whatever they're sharing, you can all see, you can all comment, you can all ask questions, and you can, learn in that process as well. As opposed to hierarchical private organizations or public organizations, DAOs operate transparently, which means treasuries and decisions are made public for anyone to verify, and those are verifiable on blockchain. Now, this concept is so radically different that if you are a traditional worker for a few years, you just cannot accept this concept. It's very difficult to understand how this particular thing works. So my urge to you guys is, like all of you are on the Telegram group, I'm assuming, try to have more conversations in the Telegram group, whatever comes to your mind. For example, Ale asked me a question that she wanted how to on-ramp or money, or how to convert fiat to Ethereum, but she sent me a message on Telegram. But what I would urge you going forward in the next month is that ask all these questions in the Telegram group itself, where there are 35 people. And you see how the engagement and mechanics changes. Because when you ask a question in the public, if one person is not able to answer because they are asleep, there may be another person who you would not have thought of would be much more, happy to answer that question as well. So all DAOs operate in that manner. Because we have been working in traditional companies, we are not used to do that. Yes, Ale, go for it.
Yes, my problem with that system is, how do I know that the person telling me what they're telling me is actually telling me something truthful and not something that's going to waste my time while I try to figure out what it is? Because me lacking the knowledge to do that, putting it in a group of people that are also learning how to do that.
Yes.
There is a lack of authority of actually knowing, like, do you know what you're talking about? And then how do I know that you know what you're talking about? Because I don't know. So I have to try it and spend time trying it, and then come to find out what you said maybe is inaccurate because somebody else responded later. Like, all of that just seems like a huge waste of time, honestly. And that's what I feel like the biggest resistance to, because it doesn't seem time efficient for what we have to do to follow that system at all.
I think all the points that Ale raised are legit, and those are some of the challenges within a DAO as well. But because I have been working in DAOs for the last 2 years, initial days, my first month, I had the same questions that Ale had. Maybe in the next 3 months, when I started working more in this Discord servers, I realized that how do I know if someone is intelligent enough to give me the right answer? Now, the actual answer is you would take a little bit of your own time to make those personal choices, even within those Discord servers and Telegram group, to know whether that quality of answer is really of high quality or it's not of high quality. So there is a little bit of wastage of time, but the good part of DAO is because it is democratic, in the wastage of time, you are actually building relationships with your team members as well. Because in a particular structured hierarchical company, you are not building deeper relationships because there is no chaos around it. It is saving more time. You are working efficiently for one purpose. But in a DAO, when you try to build relationship with this, let's say another 30 people, eventually, in the next 6 months or 12 months, you will have exponential growth as opposed to a linear growth. Why? Because if a person is saying something wrong, there will be another 30 people who will try to correct that person as well. So there will be a little bit of more to and fro, but you will always find the right answer, because collective intelligence will always supersede an unintelligent discussion as well. So my thought process and my urge to everyone on this call is to be a little bit patient in the early days, because you are trying to learn a new concept. It is like going to a new country and you have never heard of that country, right? So you don't know the language of that country, you don't know the culture of that country, you don't know how the people look like, you don't know what they eat, you don't even know how to talk to those people as well. So my sincere urge to everyone is that when you try to understand the concept of DAOs, especially if you have never worked in a DAO before, you have to be very patient in the early days, right? And I will give you some quick hacks how to actually know who is an intelligent person in a DAO. Usually a person who is really knowledgeable in skill set or knowledgeable in a particular area, they will be the people who will be guiding the conversations. So eventually you will realize a moderator in a particular Telegram group or in a particular Discord group is knowledgeable enough to give you an answer or direct you to the right person, right? But if you are having on a spectrum of 1 to 10 low, you have anxiety and you have low patience levels, then you will not enjoy the process in a DAO. And surprisingly, the predictions are that your knowledge development over the next 3 to 5 years is the highest in a DAO and not in a structured company. So if you want to be a forward thinker, a futurist, a high intellectual professional, then you will learn more in a DAO than in a structured company. These are global predictions. These are, that we have been discussing in multiple DAOs as well. But my urge to everyone on the call is that just be patient in the early days, because this is a very radically different organizational structure that you have never heard of, right? So coming back to transparency is that discuss everything in public forum. If you have a question that you are not getting an answer on, let's say, Telegram group of 35 people, ask it on Twitter, ask it on Polywork. These are some of the platforms from where you can get answers from other intelligent people in the community, right? The third is DAOs are flat organization. They don't have a top-down level structure. Now, people who have worked in top-down level structures for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, it's very difficult to understand a flat organization. You don't have a boss. You don't have a person that you report into. You just defend your idea and you challenge an idea and you build on top of an idea. So the best knowledgeable people are the folks who really have a stronger voice in a DAO. I know, and I don't expect everyone in the call to actually understand it in the first day. It took me almost few months to understand how a DAO operates. A DAO is initially very chaotic, but as we proceed further in a DAO, you will realize the structure is coming very naturally. Automatically, things are getting realigned, right? So just trust the process and take part in this particular journey is what I would say. DAOs, they have flat structure, meaning everyone within a DAO starts on the same level with no seniority or power. Now the teams that we have formed, team 1, team 2, team 3, everyone is equal. Gustavo is as equal as Marcos and Max. So, it's a very flat structure. Try to have this team questioning as well. In your free time, if you want to have a chit chat, set up like 30 minutes of call and try to know each other very well. Now, the way these teams are structured, team 1, 2, and 3, is because they are more or less equal in terms of their team strength, right? So they are very evenly distributed. So my recommendation is that in the next few weeks, have just 30 minutes, 45 minutes of internal team calls to know each other well. These bonding calls can be moderated by the admins like Montserrat, Alonso, and Ali. You can moderate those discussions, but you can facilitate people to have these candid conversations in the early days to find common themes. So that's a DAO. What are the core components of a DAO? DAOs need a mission and a purpose. We have formed 3 teams, but we haven't formed a mission and purpose. We don't need a mission and purpose in the early days. We just need people to talk about their passion in those group discussions. This can be collecting NFTs, building a product, or funding a public good project as well. Group chat. DAOs usually start off with a small group of people in Telegram group. And that is the reason I've been focusing a lot on Telegram and not on any other Web2 platform, right? Or they start in a Discord. but I know that a lot of you are not using Discord or may not have heard of Discord. But as we proceed further, maybe in the classroom session that I'll have on March 9th, 10th, and 11th, sometime we will check. I will show you my Discord and tell and showcase exactly how discussions are happening in a DAO. Okay. So you start with a group chat. Then you start having a treasury. The most common type of community DAO collects NFTs and stores them in a multi-sig. What is a multi-sig? We will learn later. Communities DAOs can also bootstrap their treasury through a tokenized crowd fund. Now, these are very interesting concepts, which means that you can bootstrap, which can let's say in team 2, Alonso, Rodrigo, Daniel, Raul put in 200 pesos each and tell that, hey, this is the community fund of 800 pesos. And from thereafter, we will try to create a product on top of it. There's a possibility. The governance of DAOs, community DAOs with valuable treasuries and 100+ members need a way to make collective decisions. Now, how do we take collective decisions? We'll try to learn it today. Usually, rough decisions is reached off-chain and the governance vote is just a formality. What is a consensus? How a governance vote happens? What are these concepts? This entire block of governance, I will try to, talk about it at a later point in time. So the other concepts that you see, on-chain cash flow and tokens, just remember that these tokens are tokens like Ethereum tokens or NFTs, etc. Okay. So some of the DAO concepts is that it starts from a group chat. Okay. Now, all your team members, team 1, team 2, team 3, you all are in a Telegram group together, right? So you can start having conversations about ideas, about business ideas, about solutions, about personal lives as well on the Telegram group. I would urge you to have more of conversations, because only when I ask you to post something like your polywork group, your polywork ID, you share it. But there is no internal discussions happening in the Telegram group, right? So going forward, when you have doubts, when you have thoughts, when you have suggestions, try to start doing this in the Telegram group itself, okay? Some of the examples of DAOs, some of the DAOs are Seed Club DAO. I'm a part of Seed Club DAO. It is an investment DAO where a lot of people are investors who fund various projects. Let's say tomorrow, if Antonio wants to raise money, he can actually raise money from Seed Club DAO, right? I'm part of Lobster DAO, and I actively take participation in some of the other DAOs like Gitcoin DAO, Forefront DAO as well, right? These are some of the examples of DAOs. What are the benefits of DAOs? Now, the benefits of DAOs are, one is governance. Because DAOs are open, they are transparent, it enables anyone to participate. For example, tomorrow, if team 2, Alonso, Rodrigo, Daniel, and Raul are having these discussions in the Telegram, there's a possibility that Kevin can say that, hey, Daniel, there could be a better way of doing some particular thing. So there's a lot of fluidity among team members as well. So I would urge you to have more of these open conversations in that Telegram group and not in your WhatsApp groups per se, right? The decision-making are very public and collective. These are very beauty of DAO. For example, if your CEO is trying to fire or hire a person, those are very closed group decision-making. But in a DAO, these decisions are taken in a very public forum and everyone participates in this decision. So tomorrow, for example, you can put a proposal in team 3 because it has 5 people that shall we have 5 people or shall we kick one person out of that team 3? That could be a proposal and everyone can take a vote on it. You can ask the same question to Antonio. You can ask the same question to Guillermo, Ale, Rosario, and Kevin, right? Finances. The finances of a DAO are usually controlled by smart contracts. But in the initial days, they will just have a multi-sig and they will hold the treasury as well. The incentives, ability to award tokens to many stakeholders to drive incentives. Now, the interesting part is as your groups evolve, right? your group will take its own shape in the next 1 month. And if you stick on to the group, it will take another shape in the next 6 months as well. So the incentive structure is very much aligned in a different manner. Because let's say team two, the core team two is of Alonso, Rodrigo, Daniel, and Raul. You hold the majority of the incentive structure, right? So tomorrow, let's say Antonio or Ale come to team two, you will always tell them that, hey, we were the early day members of the team two. So we will hold the majority of the money or the treasury. Because you have come a little late, you will get a little bit of differentiated money as well. So that is how incentive structures are getting shaped out. Revenues and royalties, these are public and automated. Now, more or less on this slide, what you actually need to understand is that DAOs are fundamentally very different from traditional companies that you have been working for. In a DAO, every decision is being challenged by every other person. Imagine a decision is being taken by a finance team, but a supply chain member or a marketing team member comes and, questions finance team as well. That doesn't happen in a traditional company, but in a DAO, these kind of things will happen. Now comes what is the most important part in a DAO is governance. But before we move to governance, I'll take a pause and I will ask some questions to our friends. Let's say Max. Hello, Max. Oh, Max is there. Yeah, can you unmute and tell me, what did you understand from all those conversations that we have been having for the last 1 hour? What comes to your mind?
Well, that on the one hand, we should try to communicate more on Telegram. On the other hand, that there are different, I'd say, management styles in DAOs.
Okay. Yeah.
And that basically everybody is very free to choose what he or she would like to do. And yeah.
Yeah, all are good points. Now, Max, you are in team one. Do you know, as we speak, what Raul is actually thinking, about businesses, about business models? Do you know how his thought process is? I'm just curious.
What his thought process is, I would say so. We have worked on other topics and he's very sharp guy, this Raul.
Okay. So do you know what Raul may be thinking about, let's say, this fictional company called as Mezcal DAO? Do you know what he would be thinking right now?
Right now, but I would assume that he might be interested in it since we have a delivery tomorrow and he might want to relax after tomorrow. So yes, I don't know what you say, Raul.
So the beauty is, Max, usually when you are all in a Telegram group for a long period of time, not for a short period of time like 2 months, but let's say for 6 months or 12 months or maybe 24 months, you don't leave the Telegram group, right? You don't get angry and then you just leave the Telegram group. You're just there because you know that a lot of intelligent people are there in the Telegram group, and there's a possibility that a lot of other intelligent people will be coming from other campuses as well. So you think that you will derive some value from the Telegram group. So you will preferably not leave the Telegram group, right? Now, when you stay in the Telegram group for a long duration of time, for 3 to 6 months, you will keep reading a lot of conversations that are happening on the Telegram group as well. Now, in that particular process, you may learn what Raul is thinking about certain business ideas, what Daniel is thinking about certain business ideas. So it will give you a lot of, advantage in improvising your own thought process as well, right? So usually people who are heavy contributors to DAOs become intelligent over a gradual period of time. But people who are working in one particular department in a company, they hit a plateau because they don't have exposure to other departments. And because companies do not allow you to have these kind of intimate conversations in a very open, transparent fashion, you become more siloed over the next few months or years. And then eventually, when the right time comes, the company can kick you out as well, because you are replaceable, right? But if you want to be more intelligent, my recommendation, Max, would be to always stick to Telegram groups where these kind of intelligent conversations are happening. And the way to have this intelligent conversation is to actually contribute further to the conversations that are happening. In the initial days, if you see something, you see a video, you see a picture, try to contribute. Be curious about it. When you ask a question to the other person, even if the other person doesn't know you, that person is under a situation to answer back to you, right? And that's how you build relationships over a period of time as well. I am in more than 500 Telegram groups. And in those 500 Telegram groups, I have been interacting with people for the last 2 years. And the kind of knowledge that I've been getting, what's happening in South Korea, what's happening in Madagascar, what's happening in Australia, is so fascinating. I just got to know what is happening in the corporate climate of Mexico, because I was there in the LATAM Telegram group, right? And once you are comfortable with Telegram, you will start getting added to a lot of other Telegram groups. Like Montserrat and Alonso, they're already in Lobster DAO Telegram groups, and they would know what kind of discussions are happening over there. Those are crazy, very intellectual discussions. But you will only know if you're there in that group for a good amount of time. So initial days, like if you aren't there in that group, you will face challenges. So accept that anxiety, be patient with yourself, but enjoy the process, because you will become more intelligent in the next 6 to 12 months, right? Before I move to governance, does anyone over here has any specific question about some of the slides that we discussed today? Yes, no? Then I'll take it as a emphatic yes. Okay.
I don't know, maybe the structure of shareholders and stockholders are pretty similar, right? If you're like part of a DAO, it's not different because here are different players, right? You are stockholder and you just put your money in, and then you expect someone to take right decisions, and you are taking a look at that, but you don't know exactly what's happening. So I would say that a DAO could change also the structure of a company, talking about capital, of course, but also active capital, taking decisions in real time. So I would say that that would be like fantastic, because if you are willing to get enough money, you will work in order to get more money.
Yes.
Right? It could be like a more fair world.
I think you covered a lot of beautiful points, actually, Daniel. Imagine if Alonso, Rodrigo, Daniel, and Raul would have formed a startup or a company. Then you would have formed a company where every one of you would have 25% of equity stake, right? And that equity stake would have gotten diluted to 20% if you would have given 20% to an external investor as well, right? So eventually you would be taking more investor money and your equity will be going down, but you will still have shares of that company as well. This is a traditional way of managing a company. Now imagine if Alonso, Rodrigo, Daniel, and Raul decide that we will form a DAO, right? So in principle, you still have 20% stake in the DAO, right? But because the DAO doesn't have any token or money in the treasury, that 25% doesn't mean anything, right? So what will happen is that tomorrow, when you try to create a product and you sell in the market and you bring in revenues, you will divide those revenues equally in 25% each as well. Now, tomorrow, maybe after 3 months or 6 months of operation, there are 2 more people who come and join you after 6 months, right? So you can incentivize them, not in fiat pesos, but you can give an NFT or a token as well. And they will start working for you, because they would have that hope that because this DAO has been unfunctional for 6 months, the value of the NFT and the token is speculative and it will go high in price. So they will be happy to work for you for tokens, right? So in a way, the construct of a DAO is very unique, and we are still in very early days of DAO. I mean, just to give you a little bit of pep talk on some of the fun facts around DAOs, some of the first DAOs were formed in Ethereum ecosystem, and Ethereum just started in 2014-15, which means that if you have been working in a company before 2014, you would never know how a DAO operates, because this is entirely a new concept, right? But because every concept has the potential to disrupt an old industry or a company, you should always be aware how this particular ecosystem works and is evolving. What DAO is today in 2023, it will not be the same thing in 2030. Things will evolve, things will change. But if you are very there in the very early days, then imagine, you will reap the benefits as well. You will become an expert by the end of this year in December 2023, because in February, you already know the construct of a DAO. You already are in Telegram group. You will get added into a lot of other Telegram groups. You will understand how to take democratic decisions. And these are the fundamental tenets of working in a DAO as well. But yeah, I think someone had another question as well. No questions? Someone raised their hand as well, right? Antonio, yeah, go for it. Antonio has raised his hand, but
yes, I have a few questions.
yeah.
The first one is regarding the. I mean, this whole kind of seems pretty utopic in my mind. I mean, I understand that there's technology behind it and there's like a certain structure which supports all of this, but like for example, like the example you gave about the carne asada, like what happens if someone doesn't show up and they have like the important ingredients, or what happens if I don't know, like all this data that it's already public, and like how are you going to retrieve all of this back? Like there's a few things like that are pretty hard to, I don't know, like walk through in my mind. But I like the concept, but I still, yeah, I don't know, like I'll dive deep, but
no, I
how
hear you very
feasible
well.
is it? Like, or how's the timelining? How do you see the next steps for this? Like this year, 2 years, 5 years? Yeah.
Sure. Antonio, great questions. And all these thoughts that you shared, even Ale shared a lot of legit, thoughts, right? These are the problems in a DAO. And these things come again and again in our DAO discussions. Whichever DAO you're part of, these kind of questions arise. But you need to understand that you have formed a DAO, like taking back the example of Kanesara, you formed a DAO because you are passionate to work with those people. You want to go to a Kanesara with your family because you love your madre, padre, your family members, etc. Right? If you don't love them, you would not even invite them to the Kanesara. So what will happen is that if they are not part of the Kanesara, if they are part of that Kanesara event, they are really vested into that particular process. They want to come to the Kanesara. There is a possibility that they have a very ingredient like a tahin that you want, and they don't want, and they are maybe ill, or they forgot and they missed out an ingredient. That's a possibility. So how DAOs operate is that if there is something missing, then there is another person who takes care of it, which means that there would be a madre who would be much more intelligent and say that, what if my son or daughter forgets the tahin? So I will keep a backup tahin just in case if they forget. Yes, that's exactly how it happens in DAO. So there are more responsible, older, intelligent people who try to become this good Samaritan within a DAO, and they will not come in the process or the progress of that event. But if something goes wrong, they will come forward and try to, take the heavy lifting work as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm down. I'm
Yeah,
down.
yeah. I will introduce you to a lot of DAOs, and once you learn the mechanics of the DAOs, you will love it, because you are a startup professional. You have a bunch of ideas in your head, and eventually Web3 is a very exciting canvas to operate those ideas in as well, right? You will take time. You will take time to learn these concepts. It will be boring at times. It will be confusing at times. Sometimes you will become anxious because you are not getting a response as quickly as you would have expected in a structured company. But these are the tenets of DAO.
Okay.
Okay. After a
Yep.
good learning curve, you will enjoy it as well. Why? Because you will realize that you are talking with a lot of intelligent people in this ecosystem. Everyone is super intelligent. So the egos are, no one likes ego in Web3 canvas, right? Everyone is more giving. So if you showcase your prowess basis your ego, there will be another 4 or 5 community members who will cancel you out.
Sure.
So in this democratic manner of operation, you are also getting judged by everyone in the community. For example, the question that you ask me right now, with the tone and the tonality, etc., everyone listen to it, right? So if you are asking a rational question, everyone will be rallying for you, because they would think, hey, Antonio asked a really great question. Even I had that in my mind. So in a DAO, the best ideas always win.
Okay.
So if you are a rational human being, you are a good, kind-hearted person, you go out of your way to help people around, then you will make the most money in a DAO as well. Okay.
Yes.
So these are very interesting tenets. And as we progress further, today is the first day of this concept, right? I mean, I took 2 years. So people have been in DAOs for 3 years. So you'll have to, I will condense a lot of content, but it will take a little bit of time to know these things by yourself. And that's why I've created the Telegram group on day 1, right? Because as you proceed further, you should be accepting more of chaos. For example, your question would be coming in your head that why has Shashwat included a bunch of MBM students from Monterey in the Telegram group? Because a DAO is like that. You are building your own product in a DAO, but there will be another 300 people who will be doing something parallelly, and they will try to comment on your work or give recommendation or give some suggestions as well. Because DAOs are very community driven. There is a common theme or a culture. So for my idea of simulation, I took this Igade, Mexico as a common theme to build something on top of it. So trust the process. You will realize how things will evolve. Because when we met on the very first day at Querétaro, you never had a team in place. Now you have a good team in place who are equally intelligent, equally at the same level of yours. And there is always the same level of likability among your team members as well. Because you have taken what do you say? It was your decision of choosing things, right? So DAOs operate in a very similar manner, right? The more you operate in DAO, let's say if you are operating in a DAO for 6 months, 12 months, you will individually feel very free. It's a very psychological statement and a little bit philosophical as well. But once you start loving DAOs, you cannot do a traditional job for a person, for a company, where you are asked to come to a company because you have to go to that company. You cannot work in a company. Why? Because you will feel more independent. You will feel more sovereign. You will feel more powerful as well. Why? Because then you will start trusting yourself more than a master slave agreement contract. You will shed away the slave kind of thinking, and you will never think of a master. Like traditional organizations force you to think that there is a master, right? Like if you are working in a company, then your employer is a master. If you are in a traditional educational institution, then the dean is a master. Sometimes the professor is a master, right? But once you start working in DAOs, you see the world in a very flat organization. You only trust your intelligence, because as long as you are rational, intelligent, and methodical in things, you will be well respected and you will be well paid as well, right? So just trust the process. You will enjoy the journey. Any other questions from anyone?
Thank you. Yeah. It was good.
Any other questions? Gustavo, you're silent. No? Okay. Ale, you have a question?
Yeah, so my next question would be if it's something that is over my head and also I find tedious, not a particular interest in, how would you suggest going about trusting my own intelligence in this process? What are some things that you can do to make yourself like these types of conversations?
To be honest, I had the same questions when I was dabbling in a bunch of DAOs and Discord servers. My thought process was that I come from an international consulting background. I've worked with the likes of the big 4 companies. I've lived in multiple geographies, US, UK, Israel, etc. I know strategy consulting on a scale of 1 to 10. I've always been academically the best. I always taught my university, etc. But then something that I learned in DAOs is that how to become a humble human being first, right? If you practice humility and become very patient with people around you, then you will have a better journey in the DAOs, right? Usually in hierarchical organizations, you are being trained to think in a hierarchy, right? So you always think that if you are on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is the CEO and you are at 7, then you are better than a 5 or a 4, right? This is what you have been, seeing around you, and this is what you have seen in hierarchical organization. Because DAOs are flat, everyone is a humble professional. You will realize that people who are usually working in DAOs, they are super intelligent people, but they are so humble. They will even treat, they will, even if you ask an idiotic question, with their 25 years of experience, they would just, shoo it away, but they would not do that. They would answer your question. They would say, hello, Sashwat, hello, Ale. If you are not able to do this thing, click on this thing. And I would think, oh my God, this guy is a partner of a firm. He has more than $500 million in his account. Why is he taking the time to explain this small thing to me? Because usually in DAOs, in Web3, you'll find people are more humble. Because the group dynamics are such that if you are not humble and if you think that you are super intelligent, you will be canceled out by your team, etc. So my recommendation is that always become super humble in the early days. Be like a sponge. Be more, put your listening gears on. Try to listen everything what the other people are talking before judging whether that person is saying the right or wrong. Try to become a good listener. Once you become a good listener for few days, few weeks, few months, you will realize you will make good friends within the DAO itself, who will be of the same intelligence spectrum of yours. So you will make good friends within the DAO who are on the same intelligence spectrum as you. Because a DAO keeps on evolving, which means today there are 35 people, tomorrow there will be 300 people. Next month there will be 3,000 people. So you will keep finding people of your tribe, but you will have to be very patient with the process as well. That is my first recommendation. The second recommendation is always when you think that someone is saying some information which is factually incorrect, give examples and references to correct that person. And you can do that publicly. You should not do that privately, right? In many cultures, we have this habit of not correcting people publicly, right? In DAOs, you should be always free to correct people publicly because it is based on transparency, right? As long as you are intelligent, kind, and soft with your words, always communicate effectively within the DAO. And just follow these 2 hacks, and you will realize that your journey in a DAO will be much more wonderful. Does that help, Ale?
Personally, I'll just say no. I don't think my personality at the moment is made for a DAO, but it's an interesting challenge. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that is also a great insight. At least you are self-aware of it. Not everyone is fit to work in a DAO or they will love the DAO, right? For example, We have all done our MTBI tests, as well as you know, there is a test that is done that I mean, I shouldn't be saying it, but some of the world's early stage founders who have been great leaders have narcissistic personality type as well, right? They have this narcissistic personality type. It doesn't mean that they are not great leaders. It's just that that is their own personality type, right? So what I'm trying to hint at is that not all personality types will be a good fit in a DAO, right? And if you are aware of it, that's fine. But what is more important is that if there is a new business model that is eating away the current traditional world, and that may disrupt your traditional businesses in the next 5 to 10 years, you should be intelligent enough, irrespective of your personality type, to understand and learn it. You can only beat a system or become more, you can play the game better only if you know the rules of the game in the early days. If you know the boundaries of that game in the early days. If you don't know it, you cannot play the game as well, right? So no matter what your personality type is, my recommendation is that always be a good listener to improvise your own skill set in any game you are playing, right? So just use that early stage understanding of some bits and bobs of knowledge to use it in your current ways of thinking, right? Tomorrow, can a university be a DAO? These kind of discussions are currently happening. The answer is yes. Can a retail company like OXO be a DAO? The answer is yes. Can a tech company like Spotify be a DAO? The answer is yes. So every company that you can ever imagine of can actually operate in a DAO format. So if a format is upcoming in the Web3 space, it is very interesting to at least learn about the format, right? Coming to Marcos. Marcos, do you have any questions or?
Yes, I understand the operation of the concept of the DAO, but in the corporate world, I think that what is the recommendation? What is the best strategy to adopt these kind of technologies? Because, as you said before, this is it's in a very early days, so many companies don't have the confidence to adopt, or even when they think in this kind of concept, they think that it's a risky industry, and maybe you lose money, or even they think in Bitcoin. No? But I know that all these, there are different things. So what is the best way to try to adopt or try to change
you are a Web3 evangelist, right? So you understand the concept of sovereign individual, you understand the concept of decentralization, etc. If a person is coming from a very rudimentary Web2 background, it's very difficult to make their shifting of mind overnight. It doesn't happen that way, right? That person will only understand when that person is put in a situation that is uncomfortable to him. For example, if a person is a CEO of a company, but tomorrow he's getting fired by the investors, then he will understand what DAOs are. Okay. But before that, a person, if he's comfortable, they will not be, this is something called as a hot frog experiment. Unless and until you are in a boiling cauldron or a tub, you are like a frog. And when you raise the temperature of the boiling water, the frog never jumps out of it, right? But suddenly when it is boiling hot, after a long time, the frog jumps out of it. But while you are getting burnt, right, slowly with disruptive technologies, you should be adopting these things as well. So my recommendation is twofold. Number one is that do not force any idea or any concept or anything onto a person who is not receptive to it, right? Always showcase the benefits of it through references, examples, or by from your own experiences as well. Okay. And secondly, invite them to some of the meetups that may be happening in your city or in some of the digital platforms as well. Right. I enjoy working in DAOs because I want to be more intelligent than what I am today. Right. if I want to learn the same concepts that have been always there on internet, then I can check google.com or I can go to a library and get those books and learn it. But the new concepts are being designed by the innovators, right? You will find that a lot of intelligent innovators from the Web2 world, from the Silicon Valley, they are migrating into DAOs. And the reason for that is because they are seeing a new world order that is getting shaped out of it. And for the last 25 years, there has not been any significant technological revolution. Because it feels like a technological revolution, why shouldn't you be a part of it? Today, if someone comes to you and tells you that, Marcos, why are you using internet? You would always tell that person, hey, this is a ridiculous question.
Yeah.
Everyone should use internet, right? But if someone would have asked you in the year, let's say 1995, hey, Marcos, use internet, then you would say, what is internet? Why would I use internet? I am happy in my own home. I would not use internet, right? So these are very forward-thinking thoughts. But because we are all craving to be, forward-thinking professionals and building a futuristic thing in the present, I thought this business model is very important to learn. Because you will not know this business model because not a lot of people are active participants of this business model as well. You will not find a lot of professors very actively understanding this DAO governance mechanisms, where currently in 2023, there are few DAOs that will be disrupting universities. Okay. So my second recommendation was that just let them have a little bit of taste of money. For example, if that person has $10 or $20 or $50 or $100 of free money, right? Then that person preferably will be more sold to that idea. Surprisingly, in a capitalistic world, anyone who gets free money gets sold to that idea and is happy to experiment it as well.
Okay.
Okay. So those are a few of my suggestions. Okay, then any other questions? Okay, no more raised hands. So we go to the next interesting concept of decentralized governance. Now, what is governance? Now, governance is coming to a decision and how we come to a decision. You remember, I was in the early days, I was talking that in many of our psychological, engagements or touch points, there's a lot of game theory in play. Now, for example, how do we know that Montserrat, Marcos, Max, and Gustavo have actually finally teamed up together? Maybe Montserrat, why do you think this is the team that you have picked up?
In terms of
how did you land in this team, like Montserrat, Marcos, Max, Gustavo, and not the other people?
Well, we were sitting next to each other.
Yeah, and you were seated next to each other because you liked sitting next to that other person? Is my understanding
right?
Yeah,
of course, yes.
That's why you sit next to a person. And that person also had similar liking for you as a person. Maybe that person liked your knowledge or intelligence.
I will hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. So usually people get attracted to each other's, personalities or qualities, etc. And then you sit next to each other, right?
Yeah.
So the teaming of your team, Montserrat, Marcos, Max, Gustavo, initially you sat next to maybe Gustavo, I think, or Max.
Well, I guess it's you make sure that your teammates complement your abilities, right? So I'm not really good in financial things, and I know Max is. I'm not good in things of I don't know, computer science and stuff like that.
Yes.
And I know that Gustavo and Marcos, they are. So
Yeah.
you try to find people to complement your weaknesses.
Excellent answer. You actually gave the answer that I was hinting at. You form a team that is actually complementary to each other, and together you want to win something, right? In this classroom, in this simulation, in this business world, you always make team because you want to win something, right? Now, the way you actually form the decisions is that you realize in your own head, You did some mental calculations and you thought that if I team up with so and so people, then I will win something which I want, right? Now, governance is such, you come to a decision and how you come to a decision. Now, the interesting part of governance even in DAOs is that every time you discuss anything, whether it is a place that you want to go to, whether it's a person that you want to date, whether you pick a food that you want to eat, or you want to build a particular business, it is built on all these finer nuances, right? Coming to a decision, and how do you come to a decision? Now, for example, if tomorrow Antonio, Guillermo, Ale, Rosario, and Kevin want to build something, how do you build something? And how do you decide that you want to build that thing only, right? That's where governance comes into play. Now, DAO governance is very interesting, right? I mean, I will invite some of the leaders, maybe Montserrat, Ale, and Alonso. I will invite you to some DAOs. And I would just expect you to be silent spectators to see how governance happens, right? Because these are very early days, right? When I was in my 2020 days, 2.5 years back, I used to jump into a Discord server and I did not understand anything. It did not make any sense to me what these people are talking about. But then I realized that some guy would suddenly come up with a great idea and eventually everyone would be rallying that person. And that guy would be a stranger. And I said, how come this shift of governance happened over a period of 10 minutes? Because what happens is that eventually intelligent people self-select each other. Usually when you are in a very selected group of IGADE students, etc., you will realize that you will get, if selection is a very natural progression. You will select people internally itself. You will self-select people whether to participate in something or not, etc. Right? It's a very interesting concept. Now, what is governance? Coming to a decision and how you come to a decision. Now, the concept is decentralized governance, right? Decisions are made by the community. Let's say tomorrow, if we launch a token and we give equal number of tokens to team 1, team 2, and team 3, you all are token holders. Is there then everyone has an opportunity to have some form of influence on a decision, right? So today we will have individual teams thinking about individual ideas and trying to build individual ideas. But there is a possibility in the near future that all these 3 ideas can converge as well. And today you may not like it, but eventually it could be a natural progression as well. And it could be a natural progression. And the reasoning for that is because you all are IGADE students. And tomorrow, if we launch a particular NFT or if we tokenize some of the assets, everyone will have equal part of it as well. Anyone who holds a particular token, it gives you that right to cast your vote and participate in the governance. So that's what decentralized governance is. Now, how are these decisions taken? The social decisions, the execution are not so smart, which means that if you are in a social situation, like 15 of you meeting in a takirita, and deciding that what tacos to eat, you will usually take a very randomized social decision. But if it is a very technical one, like what amount of money should everyone be paying for every visit to a takira, then most probably it is a very technical thing that could be coded into a smart contract as well. So the types of decision are very technical and social. Now, how the governance life cycle works like? It starts from informal discussion, then it moves to a very formal discussion, then there is signaling, then there is something called as off-chain voting, and then there is on-chain voting. Okay. Now I will explain everything that happens. Informal discussion. Informal discussion usually happens on Discord or Telegram. let's say I will pick maybe Rodrigo.
Yeah.
So for example, you have been a participant. I mean, you are actually there in the Telegram group, right?
Yes.
Sometimes you would be opening a Telegram app and looking into some of the conversations, right?
Of the group?
Of the group, yes.
To be honest, I have my notifications turned off.
Oh, turned off, no problem. So when you have time,
yeah,
look into the Telegram group, and let's do it right now, as a live example. Can you open the Telegram group on your mobile phone?
Yes, 1 second.
No problem.
There it is.
Okay. And just check some of the messages that are there, the latest messages.
You mean in the EGADE one or in the...
Yeah, the EGADE one. Yes, yes.
Okay. So the last message is...
I mean, you don't have to tell me, but just see and browse through all these messages, pictures, and a little bit videos. What kind of thoughts are running in your head right now?
Well, for what I understand from the pictures and some of the talk that we have been having this night, I think it's a lot about creating community. So that's the first thing that I see. Also in the group, because of the pictures with different groups and everything.
Yes, you're right. Any other thoughts?
I mean, you shared some tweets, but I think that would be the primary one I see. I mean, I saw about the Venture Cafe, which is also about creating a community. I saw the Suitcase, the AI travel agency.
Yeah.
But in my perspective, those are kind of ideas, but the main theme is also creating community and sharing ideas.
You're right. So usually what happens in a DAO is that many people start off as passive participants, right? When you go deep into a concept called as community engineering, like Rodrigo mentioned community, there's a concept of 80, like Pareto principle, we have 80%, 20%. 20% of the community members are super engaged. They are more active in the communities. 80% of passive listeners, they are just seeing or browsing what's happening. So there's another concept, which is like 99-1. 90% of the community members, as the community becomes bigger, will be very passive participants only, right? The 9% of the community members are usually the people who are on the fence. They are actually thinking whether they should be contributing more, or they should be coming out of the community, or because someone told them to join the community, they are just there in the community, etc. So 9% are in a like flex. 1% of the community are super engaged as well. They are the community members who are actually shaping the community, right? In a DAO, similarly, 1% of the people shape the DAO. Similarly, 1% of the people in a particular Telegram group, as the Telegram group explodes, you will realize they will even drive the narrative forward, right? But eventually what will happen is that if you are just being a part of a Discord or a Telegram group, you will have access to all these informal conversations. Because now before the 2 months back, you had no idea about Venture Cafe, or maybe you had no idea about travel, AI industry, etc. Or maybe you would not have thought about it, but now the seed is being planted, right? So that is called as the planting of seeds via informal discussions. So my recommendation would be to everyone to have all these informal discussions within the Telegram group. And I must confess, these are, if you are a Gen Z, then these things come natural to you. For millennials like us, it is a little bit of difficult thing as well. Yeah, Rodrigo, tell me.
I do have a question related to that. You were saying that in the Telegram groups, usually what happens is that people talk about very intelligent topics. So people in the community, or the community gets intelligent, right?
Yeah, eventually.
because this happens a lot, maybe not in Telegram groups, but in WhatsApp groups, that you create a group and you start to make small talk or like non-intelligent talks in quotes, because you know, or like day-to-day topics, and then the group becomes just a gossip group for saying that. O sea, how do you not get into that game? Because when the group becomes like a gossip group or just like a social group, it may become like not interesting if you want to like keep learning. And it is just like you lose time, right?
Yeah, I think I use a bunch of these group apps. WhatsApp is one of them. In Korea, we used to use Kakao Talk. That is another thing. Telegram is very, if you are a Web3 guy, then you use Telegram. If you are very active in the Web3 world, then you use Discord as well. Now, the question is, what if I get really bored by all this gossip thing that happens in a particular Telegram group or a Discord group? Usually, then you should try to uplift that conversation. If people are talking about low value conversations that are not adding up to intellectual capital or money or direct capital or social capital, then preferably divert that conversation by doing some good moderation as well. That is your contribution to that particular Telegram group. Sometimes you can actually call out people who are talking about low value things openly. If you challenge a person who is talking about gossip, that person gets offended or goes to a back foot, and preferably that person will be silent and will not continue that discussion, right? But if you find yourself in a particular group where everyone is gossiping, which means that that is a low value group, which means that you should just plug out of that group. Intelligent people eventually self-select themselves into intelligent groups. If you do a quick check into your last 10 WhatsApp groups that you have, and if you haven't contributed to some of those groups and you are just there because your father or your friend or your work colleague has invited into that group, just leave that WhatsApp group and tell a message to that particular admin saying that I just cannot manage WhatsApp group because I do not have time. If you have anything important, you can message me individually. You should have very clear boundaries in your social engagements as well. Okay. You should turn off your notifications. I do that all the time, but I'm very, very cognizant of the fact which all groups that I should be participating into. I usually participate in groups for two reasons, either for intellectual or knowledge capital or for actual capital. These are the only two reasons I am there on group. I don't participate in gossip groups because I have nothing to contribute and I have no interest in gossiping as well. Okay. Any other questions, thoughts from anyone? Okay, we move forward. So the informal discussions usually happens on Telegram and Discord, where planting of seed happens. For example, tomorrow anyone can say, Kevin can say that, hey guys, let's drink mezcal together. That's an idea. Anyone can plant any seed and you test the waters. Now, how many people actually agree to that? How many people disagree to that? How many people think that that is of value to it? How many people think that that is not a great idea, etc.? You test the waters in informal discussions. Once the informal discussions move further, you have formal discussions. Formal discussions happen in a web, I will show you some of the elements as well, how formal discussion happens. Once formal discussion happens, it happens in a forum. The right side that you see, this is an actual formal discussion that happened for my podcast, where I wanted some money for a particular grant, $10,000 only. But I said that, hey, I will start a podcast. And I wrote about that podcast, and the community actually voted here, as you can see here. 92% of the people voted yes, 1% said no. And finally, I got a grant on sometime in September, October, where they said that, hey, we are happy to give you $10,000. So what happens is that a formal discussion is where you write a particular proposal, type things in English or Spanish, and there will be people who will be reading it and commenting on top of it as well. Usually we use a platform platform called as discourse for it, right? Formal discussions on a protocols, usually on MakerDAO, Aave, Developer DAO happens. You review and update a proposal based on community feedback, and you progress it to the voting stage if there is enough community attention. Now, there are some discussions where you will not get a lot of support as well. In those cases, you will not have, you cannot progress further. So informal discussion leads to formal discussion. Now, if in an informal discussion, you are not able to gather votes from people, it will not even go to a formal discussion stage, right? Once it goes to formal discussion, in the governance life cycle, there is something called a signaling. Now, signaling is where there will be people voting to showcase the support of a proposal, right? These people who voted on my proposal signaled saying that, hey, Shashwat, I somehow agree to what you are saying and we would be with you. Another friend said that, no, Shashwat, I do not agree to your proposal, right? So this is signaling that happens. A good way to identify if there is enough community support, but signaling also comes with a lot of issues. Now, for example, if you guys are able to see my screen, are you able to see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
I will showcase an actual vote where people are. So this is a website that you actually see, snapshot.org, right? And there is a particular community called as Optimistic Ape Yacht Club, right? Surprisingly, I'm a part of that community. And someone has actually sent a proposal, as you can see over here. It says, let's fix the profit from other side lands purchase into DAI. As you can see, this is the proposal. This is their first proposal as well. And this is active, it says, right? This is where I have actually used my MetaMask to access snapshot.org. So my actual MetaMask and wallet is connected to this proposal place. You see proposals over here. Here there is a new proposal tab. There is treasury as well. There is about, settings, etc. Now, if I click on this particular proposal, this is a proposal by this particular wallet holder. Okay. It says GM, good morning. Meet the first OAYC DAO proposal. Let's vote apes. Okay. The OASC treasury bought 4 other side lands for 1.3 ETH each 3 months ago. And during these 3 months, we made 2x excellent profit. And I think the treasury needs this money today. The proposal is to fix the profit from the sale of 2 to 4 lands with the least amount of resources on them and fix the profit in about 6,000 DAI. 6,000 DAI is around 6,000 US dollars. The voting is especially relevant since tomorrow we are switching to decentralized treasury management through Gnosis multisig wallet. Details are coming soon. Now here you can see information on the right. The voting system is basic voting, meaning every person who has a particular NFT can vote. The start date is today and it ends tomorrow. Actually, I will share this particular link to you on chat and you can see it at your end as well. If you connect your wallet, you can see that this is legit. Current results are these many people have voted for the particular proposal. These many people have voted against it. And these many people have abstained from voting. Now, let's say this is casting your vote. Let's say I want to vote for. If I vote for, it says cast your vote. You can see choice snapshot, your voting power. It says that I have 11 voting power because I have 5 OAYC NFT and 5.5 MOAYC NFT as well. So I said, I am teaching voting governance in my IGADE class and wanted to share the voting mechanism. This is an actual DAO vote that's happening in front of you. and I put confirm, you see MetaMask opens up, because this is an, it takes my wallet address details as well. Ideally, MetaMask should open up. I think so. Yes, it opens up. It asks me for my signature request. You can see my Ethereum mainnet as well, which is my wallet address, web3ocean.eth. The space is this thing, this is the timestamp, and this is the proposal. And I go here and I sign it. And I signed it. And ideally, your vote is in. Do you see? So what you saw right now is that I actually voted in a live proposal for a particular DAO. And if I go below, it says you, see, this is me. This is my wallet address. This is details about me. And I have voted for with my voting capacity because of the number of NFTs that I hold. Now, how you can see all these NFTs if you go to my OpenSea and check with my wallet address as well. Now, this is one way of voting because this voting closes tomorrow. Now, there is another way of voting as well, where there are multiple proposals, as you can see. Now, there's another DAO. This DAO has only 78 members because it is the new DAO, and this is the first proposal. This DAO has 8.3K members. So imagine you start off today as 35 people from Igade, and tomorrow the entire university joins us. Then you can send proposals here. When you say delegate meaning that you don't want to vote for yourself, but you are delegating it to a better person. So you can delegate it to Rabbit Hole. You will get a lot of options here. Now you see there are a lot of active DAO proposals, and there are a lot of proposals which have been closed. Let's just have a look into a closed proposals. So this particular proposal was set up by ilsan.eth. I will send these details as well. So if you want to see at your end, you can see it. And these are all publicly available, transparent thing, which means that anyone in the world can actually see these proposals. It is transparent, but the voting is done only by people who hold those particular vote. You see a particular vote was taken from December 6 to 2022 to December 13. And these many people had abstained from this vote. They were against to this vote. And there was a quorum that matched. Quorum is a concept in voting. It's there in your parliament as well, where you attain a certain number of votes, then a resolution is getting passed. So tomorrow, if you want to pass that the next president of Mexico would be for 6 years, and they would be, having these many votes, etc., they will have to pass through a resolution, and that should have a quorum as well. It's a very democratic way of voting. What happens over here is these are the votes that have already passed and closed. Do you see? And I will share this link in the chat as well so that everyone can look at your end in your laptop. Now, again, what I'll do is this vote is active and I have actually voted for it. I think I have voted for it. See, I clicked for and I voted for it. Similarly, these are all the DAOs that are there on the left. Do you see so many DAOs are there? And some of these DAOs have like 50,000 people, 80,000 people, 100,000 people, all voting on very important matters. See, Aave has 88,000 people are there in this particular DAO. So, imagine a particular company that has 88,000 people. And every decision in a DAO is taken through a vote. If people are voting for or against it, that particular resolution gets passed. If people are voting or abstaining from it, then it will not go further as well. So it's a very, very interesting way of managing things as well. Okay. Now, coming to the signaling part of it. Forum voting happens, and thereafter off-chain voting happens. What you saw over here, the voting that I did, it was for Optimistic App Yak Club. Now, what is this club? It is just a, NFT project that you can actually see for yourself over here. Like, let's say if I go for OpenSea, this is my OpenSea account. And if I search for, let's say, sometimes the search is a little bit slow. See, the internet is a little bit cranky. Sorry for it. Sorry. Oh, oops, sorry. A little bit of reference. Opti. I'm just searching for it. So because I've got these apes that you see, right? That particular community is giving me that right to actually vote in a particular proposal. Now, if you go to any particular app, I can share with you this one so that you can see the on-chain transactions as well, right? If you go to the optimistic scan, you can see all these details of this particular transaction. For example, I bought this particular NFT on so-and-so date. It gives you all these details. So these are some of the NFTs that I hold. And the reason I was telling you that let's make some money together is, for example, how do you make money is, let's say, and why NFTs as a particular digital asset is very interesting as a financial asset. Imagine this particular NFT, okay? This NFT, I bought for 0.005 Ethereum. Okay, you can see the transactions here. If you click here, it takes to an Etherscan transaction, right? I will send you the Etherscan transaction here so that it is publicly available. So I bought it for, I think I bought it for less than $1. Do you see here? Yes, no? Can someone say? Guys?
Yes, we see.
Yeah, you are able to see I bought it for $1.
Yes.
And then 4 days back, you see the date? It says February 20th, 2023, right? 4 days back, I sold it. I sold it for actually to a pool, which is a different concept actually, for 0.11 ETH. Do you see? For 0.11 ETH. Now, if I were to go to CoinMarketCap and select 0.11 ETH, it would be roughly around $180. So in a matter, for example, do you see the delta? What happened here? If you make right choices, and do a good amount of research, you can buy something for $1 or $5, and you can sell that for $180 to $200 as well. And the Etherscan transaction is a live example. Okay. So just letting you know about the opportunity that you have in your hands and the kind of bets you can play in the coming days as well. Now, these are very interesting elements because anything that you choose in real life, if you choose, let's say, any physical product or any service that can be put into a blockchain ecosystem and could be tokenized as well, right? Now, that idea goes through off-chain voting. So you saw how we voted on Snapshot, right? This is off-chain voting on Snapshot. Now, after voting, what happens is that it goes to on-chain voting as well. Now, on-chain voting is where I put up a grant and that particular grant gave me $10,000. It is where people use their wallet addresses to actually put the voting as well. So the next time I'm there in Querétaro, I will show you exactly how these things happen as well. Now, that's how the governance life cycle happens in a DAO. Now we'll take a little bit of pause here, right? And let's have a short discussion. Maybe Raul, what do you think about the governance structure in a DAO? What did you understand? What questions do you have in your mind? And what other thoughts you have around those areas?
Well, the first thing that I would think about a DAO is that just by removing the vertical structure of a typical hierarchy within a normal organization, that's already a big win.
Yes.
So, for example, you mentioned last class that, for example, LinkedIn was kind of distorted because it was like a battle of titles or what school he went to, what company he went to, and a DAO removes all of that. And a DAO,
you're right.
It's fertile ground to basically center on the best ideas or the best collaborations, the best inputs from various people that technically don't have a face or use brands.
Yes.
But it's fully focused on the ideas. So that's what I see on a DAO. But yes, I think I'm also gonna grab a little bit of the insights from Rodrigo on what would be the best way, or well, maybe a pitfall of a DAO is maybe if too many people that aren't fostering the same collective value towards those ideas that gave birth to that DAO in the first place, it might be there's a tendency maybe to get corrupted in a way. So that's like the pros and cons that I see of a DAO versus a typical structure. So that's what's going on in my head right now.
Wow, man. I'm impressed actually, Raul. I mean, you are already DAO native. Everything that you shared is bang on. I mean, yeah. Have you worked in any DAO before, or?
No. I've been just dedicated to understanding the concept and because this to me is something still very foreign, but I'm very curious on understanding what a DAO is, and eventually I want to be part of a DAO because I don't know. I think it's entertaining my mind.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm super impressed. Actually, you have understood all the concepts very rightly. You know, you are able to process things very structurally in your mind as to how the DAO functions. So that is really bravo. I mean, I love that. I think let's hear from Kevin. Kevin, sir, are you there?
Yes, professor.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on some of the elements that we discussed about today? About DAO, about governance, about community voting, about structuring teams? What are the thoughts that are running in your head? Kevin, you are on mute. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, professor. Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I don't understand very good.
My question is, by the way, I love your cat. Huh? If that was a cat. So my question is, what are the thoughts that are running in your head as you understood that as we discussed about DAO, governance, community management, forming a team, etc. When you learned certain things today, what are the thoughts that are running in your head? Do you have any ideas, any questions, etc.?
No, I think it is okay. I think so.
It is okay, but do you have any viewpoint, any opinion, or any thoughts to share?
No, professor. I think it's okay what we see today.
Okay. Thank you. Alonso, do you have any questions, any thoughts?
Yes. For me, this seems like a surreal world, you know? Maybe I'm the one from the past generation and hearing about DAOs and cryptocurrencies and all of this stuff. But it's engaging, the part in which we move forward to a world where everyone's opinion counts and it is like decentralized. all the concept about the decentralization for me it's really appealing because it gives power to the people. And think about Web3 and all of the possibilities that content is made by users and not delivered by corporations. It's for me impressive.
You have also good understanding of everything that you said. It is very Web3 focused. You are on the right path as well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Guillermo, can we hear some thoughts from you, sir?
Yep. Well, as Alonso says, it's important at the end to be polite and to listen everything that you are already in a group when you're doing those things about the teammates or create as co-workers and your work. Try to find out the way to work and at the end have a really good result.
Very generic answer, but it's okay. Okay, guys. So I think today we learned a little bit about DAOs. We actually heard this concept called as DAO, right? And we might experiment with this concept going forward as well. And the reasoning for that is any real life problem that you want to solve, we will try to give a little bit of innovative touch to that with a DAO, right? Now let's see one of the investment pitch deck of a real company that is doing millions of dollars of business as well, right?
Just a quick, sorry. I just have a quick comment because for me, it's really good, but I always have buts on my understanding. So I was thinking about this philosophical question about security and freedom, because I think that this is everything that as we know it is focused on that. We create a state, a government, because sometimes we prefer security than freedom, right? So I would say, so I would go in governance for that question. Sometimes it's easier just to get on the boat and just try to make the wind go everywhere. And I don't know if it's the right path for everyone, but I would say that this is a good opportunity for people that wants to take their way and they want to go on their own direction. So I would say that this is again a big opportunity where we can find security and freedom. And if we decide to go in with freedom, we will have certainly a lot of challenges, but also we would have a big opportunity, and we could have a whole new world to open up. So I would go into that direction, and I will also say that that decision-making process could be not only focused on DAOs. I mean, the optimal situation here is that everyone is just giving their focus, but nowadays organizations have focused on open innovation. So I would say that this mechanism is also good for open innovation.
Yes,
and to collect everyone's ideas and not being maybe organized properly as a DAO, but it would be like a good tool to use for today in these big opportunities and these big challenges that our organization are facing.
Yeah, I think I like your thoughts, man. Initially, 2.5 years back, when I was in a bunch of Discord servers on a digital plane, we used to have these kind of philosophical discussions only. I kid you not. We used to have Zoom calls and video calls on Discord. And we used to discuss why security is important. Like a government of any country provides security, right? But now the question is that security evenly distributed among all its citizens? The answer is no. The people who are privileged, they get better security than the people who are not privileged. So although the government is for the people, at times it is not evenly, serving its citizens, right? Now think of the scenario on the other side. If I'm a person who is on a privileged side and there is no inconvenience that is caused to me, then I will always vote and root for the government giving me that security again and again. So I'm in sync with that government, right? But what if I'm on the disadvantageous side? Maybe I do not get the certain kind of security that I expect from my government, and maybe I don't get any security at all. Maybe my own folks have been affected by not having the security from the government. In that case, maybe there is a possibility that I will go towards more sovereignty. I will go for private security. Maybe I will form a community who will help each other out. Maybe we will have a bond among ourselves that we will save each other whenever there is a problem that comes into our tribe, etc. And that is the birthplace of a DAO. When there is an external problem and there are a set of people who try to solve it together, they have common themes and they solve it together efficiently. So in places where government is not able to solve a particular problem, I think DAOs have a very good opportunity to thrive as well. So whether that is in terms of security or in terms of any other problem that you can take from your life as well, it could be healthcare problem. It could be, there are DAOs in the healthcare ecosystem as well. There are DAOs in manufacturing ecosystem as well. So all these DAOs are solving a particular problem that was not being able to solve by a centralized entity, right? I personally like some of the principles of DAOs, that is giving power to every voice in that community, right? For example, it doesn't matter if Kevin says anything or not. What matters is, was Kevin respected and asked for his opinion, right? When you actually take into account everyone's opinion for a particular decision, that's when you actually become decentralized in your functioning as well. In autocratic hierarchical companies, whether it is Thermo Fisher or whether it is OXO, some of the decisions are taken in closed rooms because board members do not have the time to discuss things out transparently with companies as well. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a teaser about what DAOs are, how governance looks like, how team formations can eventually influence the final result as well, right? Within a DAO, if you, how many of you have used Discord in your previous life? Oh, I think Rodrigo has used, yeah. So Rodrigo would know that Antonio as well. Yeah. You're a startup guy, so I expect you to use all tools. So in a Discord, you have a lot of channels as well. So what happens is that, imagine these teams, the 3 teams that we have, these are like channels where, very pointed discussions are happening, right? In a DAO, these are called as guilds, GUILDS, right? And these guilds can be developing individual products by themselves, doesn't matter. Eventually, what will happen is that there will be some common theme when, you three teams will be building some product as a final class experiment, right? And you will be thinking 3 different ideas, obviously, because you are individual teams. But when we will come to the final presentation, maybe sometime in the end of March, you will realize that there are still common themes in these 3 teams as well. And that's where the seed of a DAO can be put forward as well. So I just wanted to put the skeleton in so that we know what we are heading towards. Now, with that, in the next 1 hour, or maybe in the next 40 minutes, we will have a very clean look into one of the investment deck of a real company, right? These are good concepts. DAOs, NFTs, DeFi, Web3 are good concepts. but let's see how a particular business, actual business that is generating millions of dollars in revenue looks like, right? Would you guys be interested in that or not so much? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so I have already shared that investment deck with you on Telegram. It is called as Yuva Labs. And from my end, I will try to screen share that as well so that everyone can have a look at that. Okay, just a minute, guys. Okay, let me know if you are able to see my screen. Guys, let me know if you are able to see my screen. Yes, no?
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect, perfect. Now, whether you are an entrepreneur or you are an investor, whether you are a future entrepreneur or you are a future investor, one thing that is very common is investment decks, slide decks, right? Either you will create a bunch of them, or you will learn from them, or you will evaluate them to invest into them, right? So if you are on the innovation side of the world, you will always have access to investment decks or pitch deck, as we say, right? So this is an actual pitch deck for a company called as Yuga Labs. As you can see, they are US based. It was last updated in February 2022. And of course, as you will all know, a lot of slide decks and decks are all confidential and proprietary as well. So unless and until you have the right, you shouldn't be actually sharing it to the external world, right? Now, there's a disclaimer that this particular company, Yuga Labs LLC, has put. You can read here. Every slide pack or every investment deck any entrepreneur creates should have a line here that you can see, right? It's called as forward-looking statements. Certain statements in the presentation may be considered forward-looking statements. Forward-looking statements generally relate to future events, including but not limited to company's future financial or operating performance. Solely by way of example, projections of future revenue, expenses, and other metrics are forward-looking statements. Do you see this? Solely by way of example, projections of future revenue, expenses, and other metrics are forward-looking statements. In some cases, forward-looking statements may be identified by terminologies such as may, should, expect, intend, will, estimate, etc. So Antonio, tell me one thing. Why do you think we use these kind of words in investment decks?
Because like most of these companies, I guess, are still in early stages or are still going to, I don't know, pivot. So maybe to avoid forward, like future problems.
Mm-hmm. So ideally, if you are an entrepreneur, you should love these words. And always when you are preparing a pitch deck or an investment slide deck or a presentation, preferably use these words to safeguard yourself from getting sued, right? If you run a professional business, then you should always remember that these words will actually save you from multi-million-dollar lawsuits as well. Okay.
Good. Yes.
Yeah. Company. So this is the company BAYC, Future and Roadmap Financials. Have you guys prepared any presentation or slide pack in any of your earlier classes? Yes, no, maybe, have seen?
Sorry, a presentation about what?
Yeah, have you guys prepared any presentations or investment slide decks or funding slide decks in your classrooms ever?
No, I
Yeah,
don't.
we did a pitch deck con Moy, con ¿cómo se llamaba el otro? Dante y Moy.
Dante.
Okay,
But
you've created a pitch deck,
yeah,
right?
we have previously done a pitch deck, right?
Excellent. So imagine this as a pitch deck experiment, right? And maybe we have team 1, team 2, and team 3. You all will be creating individual pitch decks as we move forward in the class. So we will learn about the exact things in the pitch deck when I will be meeting you guys in person. But your final presentation will be somewhere, maybe team 1, team 2, and team 3 will be presenting an investment deck, which will be very much similar to the deck that we will be just glancing through right now. Okay, so just see this slide pack from a pitch deck preparation lens. Okay, you see this particular company is a Web3 company exploring big ideas in identity, ownership, utility, and interoperability to push the crypto and NFT space forward. Usually a vision or a mission of a statement of a company is very concrete, right? Like, Ale, what is the mission of your company that you are working for?
Actually, good question, because it's under construction. We are rebranding because we just merged with another custom development company, so we don't currently have one.
That's a very...
one of my main tasks actually for the end of Q1 is redacting it and putting it up on the website.
Yeah, because what happens is that mission is the most important thing that at least the core members of the company should get it done as soon as possible. Without the mission, imagine running a company, right? It's very difficult, and it's like a rudderless ship in an ocean. Okay, so you should always have a mission. This particular company's mission is somehow very bold and forward thinking, which is exploring big ideas. It's very vague, but it's about exploring big ideas in identity. Can someone explain some of the terminologies over here, or you don't understand some of the words over here? Is it clear to you what the mission statement is? Yuga Labs is a Web3 company exploring big ideas in identity, ownership, utility, and interoperability to push the crypto and NFT space forward. Are you able to find this particular document in the Telegram? Okay, the way you actually search Telegram is go to Telegram. Okay. And if it is on, you'll have this particular tabs like members, media, files, links. Click on files. Right? Click on files. And on 9th of February, you will find that this particular slide deck that
It's the investor deck, right? The PDF.
Yes, the investor deck.
Okay, yeah.
Many of the current investors in the Web3 ecosystem, they accept pitch decks and investment decks on Telegram. I mean, in 1990s and 2000s, maybe people were sending pitch decks, but now there is no concept of sending or emailing a pitch deck as well, right? Pitch decks are getting shared with investors on Telegram as well. So if you want to be on the innovative side of things, if you want to pitch to some investor in the near future, or you want to be an investor and you want to receive investment pitch decks, then preferably be a little bit active on Telegram as well. It will help you in the next 2 to 5 years. Okay. So this is the slide pack that you actually see. Now, this is a very funny thing. What's very interesting about this particular slide? Can anyone say? You have prepared your pitch decks, right? So let's say, what is very interesting about this slide pack? Rosario, what do you think? What is interesting on this slide?
Everything is a monkey. Only.
Yeah, it's all monkeys, right?
But
what
that's
comes to your mind?
NFTs, no?
Sorry?
These are NFTs?
Yeah, these are all NFTs. But you know, something that has interesting happened in the Web3 ecosystem is that you are using a profile picture and not sharing your actual picture. I don't know who Gordon Gunners is or Gargame is, No Sass is, Emperor Tomato Ketchup. They haven't even shared their actual name. Do you see here? There is a bunch of photographs and a bunch of people without their actual name, and they are the founder and co-president, which means tomorrow, if you are still working in a particular company and you, sorry, I think just a minute. Yeah, the connection was delayed. So tomorrow, if you are actually working in your own company and in your spare time, you want to start another company, etc. Web3 is the, oh, sorry, how did I got it? Web3 is the only place where you do not have to disclose your name or even your picture. And in the background, you can do whatever work you want to do, and you can build your company on the sideline as well. Right? Earlier in our Web2 world, your investors expected you to show your actual designation, etc., and those things. But out here in the Web3 world, in DAOs, you do not have to show even your name. I don't even know who Nosas is. Right? Do you see here? This is very unique to this page. Can someone read this actually? Guillermo, why don't you give it a shot? This slide.
To read it?
Sorry. Yeah.
Read. I can read it.
Yeah. Go for it, Gustavo.
Yeah. So we marry expertise in media and technology with consumer-focused brand building at scale. Guzo Ciari, minority partner at Yuga Labs, industry pioneering media mogul and the founder of Maverick, a talent management firm whose clients include U2 and Madonna. Co-founder of Sound Ventures alongside Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah, pause for a while. Do you understand the background of these guys? Yes, no? I mean, they're like very high profile guys. I mean, like, you know, they were a co-founder of Sound Ventures along with Ashton Kutcher and have managed clients including U2 and Madonna. I mean, these are like world-class brands, right? And the interesting part is no one has disclosed their photographs because in Web3 world, you know, Gustavo or Guillermo, you don't have to showcase any of your photo as well. Tomorrow you can build anon brands and you can still raise money is what I'm trying to hint at. Yeah, the next one, maybe.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again? Like, what were you trying to hint at? I'm not sure I understand.
I'm hinting at that tomorrow, if you are trying to raise money without disclosing your own name and designation, because you may be working as a full-time employee of a company, you could still, you know, moonlight and build a company like this using pseudonyms and using NFTs and still raise venture money. This wasn't the case in Web2 world, right? For example, Ale, for you, if you take 3 months of break from your company, then you will lose out on the salary that you would have got for those 3 months, right? But you are passionate enough to actually build a company on the side as well. But because this ecosystem is very well connected, if you actually make a pitch deck, you will put your photograph, and in your photograph, you will write that Ale Renteria, whatever your designation of that company. And that investor will tell you that, hey, Ale, you are already an employee of a company, which means that you are devoting more time to that particular company. How would I get the return on my money, because you are not full-time devoted in your company, right? Plus, there will be a little bit of breach of confidentiality, or maybe some clash of some pointers as well. These things can be eradicated while you are building something in the Web3 or crypto space, because no one cares what your company is, how you look like, and what is your real name as well, right? Another interesting concept in DAOs, people go by their pseudonyms as well, which means that I did not have my own name. I did not use my name Sashwat.lens in a bunch of Discord servers, right? I started using it only when I realized that I need to raise venture, money from investors, right? So you can just be a, passive participant in a lot of Discords with a pseudonym of yours. Like, Antonios can use a random name like Oserio or Shoemaker, etc., Soda, and still be very famous. It's a very new way of managing your companies and brands as well. Overview of the Yuga team. So, Rodrigo, when you were preparing your pitch deck in your previous class, what was the template that you had followed?
I think we made it. I don't think there was like a template.
Okay, and what were the highlights of those headings of those slides?
I mean, we based our pitch on the business model canvas.
Yeah.
But for the presentation, there was not like a specific template, and I am not. Let me remember, because that was like a year ago.
Also, I can help you. Yes, I think that we have like a base template, like where you have the challenge, the proposal, how you are going to solve it. Like this storyline, as also you may know, as in consulting, you do like the problems, the challenges, how you are going to solve it, and then the solution and the alliances and but I don't remember. We use a template, but I don't remember the name of the template.
Got it. And Gustavo, if you were to pick a particular area within your team, like Monserrat, Marcos, Max, and you were to build any pitch deck, it doesn't matter which company or which idea is it, which area are you more comfortable with?
I think that I'm more, I don't know how to say it, but I think that with technology, all the new trends, I'm more used to work with that area, or also the business trends are also my expertise.
Got it. When you say technology, is it like emerging and innovative technologies as well?
Yeah.
Excellent. So guys, we saw two interesting insights here in these discussions. When Rodrigo was actually trying to say, Gustavo from the other team one even pitched in, right? This is a very typical case where you try to discuss things in public or discuss things in Telegram. You will keep realizing that although there are 3 different teams and they are building 3 different projects or products or solutions, you will see each other helping out at times when the situation demands as well. And when you try to know what the particular skill set of the other person is, you can try to help that person or seek help from that person for your own project as well. So in DAOs and in projects, it's a very translucent way of managing resources. Yeah, sorry. Someone was saying something? No? Okay. So I think usually when you are working in a very Web3 way of projects, you will realize that it is not a zero-sum game. It is more of learning through the process, engaging with everyone within your team, outside your team, and then scaling something up as well. Okay. Now, overview here, usually you see this overview of the Yuva team. They've explained about number of teams, the community managers, and our diverse staff, etc., about their company. This is a very good slide. We are bridging the gap between culture and Web3. BAYC is just the beginning. We are building the next frontier, expanding IP, new utility, new product development, breaking metaverse boundaries, new verticals, streetwear, events, and more. So I think you guys have the slides. Can you just go through it and ask me some questions where you are stuck or where you have some doubt with regard to this presentation only? You do a silent reading for like 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll take some questions.